Hello everyone, my name is Max Aaron James, and this is a review of the film Nanny, written and directed by Nikyatu Jusu, starring Anna Diop, Michelle Monaghan, and Sikwa Walls. I'm sure I mispronounced a couple of those names. The film is about an African immigrant who comes over to the United States, gets a job as a nanny for a white family who live in this complex and have a daughter. And the nanny hopes to collect enough funds, enough money to bring her son over to the United States. Now, the first 2/3 of the film, I thoroughly enjoyed. It is a bit slow, and it does have a slow burn, but I was reminded watching an older film from the 50s, I believe, Eyes Without a Face, that we've come to a point where we expect things to happen really fast to keep our attention, and we do not always appreciate the buildup and the details of and creation of this world that we're put into. Now, there are a lot of films that it's better to just put us into that world, and it is sometimes better to just go in with these ideas that the audience will understand as we go along. Here, the movie doesn't really do that, and it can be a bit boring for some people, or people can become impatient. I understand that. But I actually enjoyed and appreciated the build-up that Nikyatu Jusu did with this story and these characters. Sequel Wall's character is, I'm not sure on the title, I'll say bellhop. He helps take care of the building that the family lives in, and he has his own son, and builds this connection with Anna Diop's character. They're both black, they both have children, they're both single parents, and they're both doing what they believe is best for their child. So that chemistry between the characters and even the actors felt really genuine and authentic, and I really appreciated that. I was really invested in when they were both on screen and that relationship that they were building, and that's always a good thing and to highlight. A lot of times love stories or romances that are put into other genres tend to be forced, or for the sake of filling in these boxes for the audience and what execs believe the audience needs to have. Michelle Monaghan as the mother is great. As the mother of the child that the nanny is taking care of is great. She plays the character well. This mother who is not in tune with what her daughter needs, believes that what she thinks is best for her daughter is not really best for her daughter, and makes her daughter a bit unhappy. And we see this in real life and in other shows and films of where someone such as a nanny or a friend understands the child a bit more because they're listening to the child and pays attention to what the child wants and likes. I became thoroughly invested, especially going into the final act of the film. There was this huge build up, and it kind of felt like, okay, now things are rolling. Now that we've been introduced to this and we have an idea of what's going on, now we're about to see what's happening. And so I really enjoyed that. The husband of the daughter, played by Morgan Spector, did really good. He wasn't in the film too much, so there were scenes where it kind of felt like, do we need this? But it helped build this kind of relationship and this dynamic that's going on within the family and between this husband slash father and the nanny. And this is where Nikyatu Jusu did well with building these characters in this world that you're in, understanding how each character plays their part and what's going on and the influence that they're having on their child that maybe they're ignorant to and not cognizant of. And the nanny recognizes this and is doing her best to be pretty much a mother to this girl. What ends up happening throughout the film, there's an evil presence in the family's home that is affecting how she's able to take care of the daughter. Seems to be threatening her life as well as the daughter's life, and leads to the nanny button heads with the mother and questioning whether the nanny's actually capable of doing her job. And again, it's not necessarily the nanny's fault, except for one thing, which I'll get into. But the nanny's trying to deal with this presence while taking care of the child. And she doesn't really question it at first, but she starts realizing something's going on that she can't put her finger on. I couldn't think of the saying at the time. They even give her own bedroom, and she starts having weird dreams and there's a mold building in a corner of the place, which can signify and represent a lot of things. And if you've read on that and seen it in other pieces of art. Now, Anna Diop, Nikiatu Jusu, I was not familiar with either of them prior to this film. Nikiatu Jusu made a few prior films that have ratings similar to what I'm personally giving this film, where they're good for the most part, but there are certain flaws that take away from the film, and I guess I'll get into that. So the film, like I said, first 2/3 are really good, and they're just build up. So it kind of helps when the payoff is worth it, and it felt like the payoff was about to be worth it at the end. What ended up happening was what could have been given to us in maybe another 30 minutes was given to us in 15. It ends like that when you're finally into it and think, okay, now what's really going on? We're about to see it all happen. And it's almost as if the buildup wasn't worth it. It kind of felt I waited all this time for something that lasted maybe 10, 15 minutes. And the way it ended left me questioning certain things. So Anna Diop has a family member, I believe it was a family member, that still lives in Africa taking care of her child. And something happens to the child, and it's kept secret. And that's where I was questioning why that was the case. And there are reasons that you can pull from, but it still felt off. When we finally start having ideas of what is going on within the house, we start getting invested in it, but it doesn't pay off in the way we'd want to because there is no resolution to it, or it felt like there was no resolve. It felt as if there was just an idea of just leaving and going on to another path in Anna Diop's character's life and the nanny's life. But then that left more questions of why do we feel like everything's better now? Because, all right, I'm at the end, and pretty much what I'll say is that it didn't pay off the way I wanted it to, and I was kind of disappointed in how it ended. Let's get into some spoilers. So the nanny has her own food from her country, right, that she makes it, uses her own ingredients, and the daughter that she's taking care of, she's been being paid to take care of, likes that food and prefers that food over what her mom gives her. So the nanny decides to give it, right, let her have it. She loves it, she tries it. The mother disapproves of this. But the mother is not taking care of her bills. I don't think the family is very well off. It feels like they invested and just poured all this money into other things and just collected all this debt to live in a nice house, a nice neighborhood. Probably spending ridiculous amount of money on food that isn't sufficient enough to take care of all three of them. Right? It's like just lettuce in the fridge, and the nanny points that out eventually. But they keep butting heads. The husband, he's a cheater, obviously, and starts hitting on the nanny. And I think the mother is aware of this because she keeps warning the nanny about it whenever she's drunk and like giving subtle hints about it. But maybe she's still trying to turn a blind eye to it when she's sober. And again, the husband's not in the movie too much, aside from he's the one that's just cheating and maybe living off of his wife and enjoying that to spoil himself and live how he wants. He's not very emotionally available or emotionally intuitive person and connected with his wife or his child, and doesn't seem to have much money and like putting it all off on the mom. So the nanny starts having weird dreams of like water pouring into her bedroom and she can't breathe and she's about to drown. And she starts having these illusions and images of stuff that's going on and weird stuff. And there's a spider in the house. So there's some African folklore that's brought into, including a spider named Nancy the Spider. And there's a book that the daughter is given about Nancy the Spider that is supposedly that whispers into people's ears. I'm not too familiar with the folklore from what I remember, so this is just what I remember. And Nancy the Spider is apparently potentially, it's not really said, the spider that's crawling through this house and only speaks to the daughter. And the spider is telling the daughter bad things. The nanny's not too invested in it. It's like, this is child's imagination. It's African folklore, but it's not something I really am committed to or believe in to that extent of taking it seriously. But this weird stuff starts happening. And Nancy eventually speaks to the nanny while she's sleeping. Or not necessarily while. No, she was awake. But I guess Nancy has this hypnotic voice probably, and leads to these illusions in the nanny's head that leads her to almost killing the daughter. And so it was, and that scene built up this amazing moment going into the third act, or maybe they were already in it, and that's where you feel the audience gasped at this scene. It was such a beautiful build up and unexpected, and to create that scene where it seems like she's drowning in this water, this ocean, as she falls into the tub, or when she accidentally cuts herself and is running around looking for the girl that she is supposed to take care of, and almost stabbing her because you can't see her. And then to end it 15 minutes later is what led to that. What is going on? What else do we have? And throughout those 15 minutes afterwards, all that happens is her friend from Africa is not paying, or that supposedly still in Africa. The nanny paid for their tickets already. The woman is not answering her phone. She's not answering the calls. She's not responding back to text. None of that. And when she eventually does, probably a week or so later, she's saying, "You never asked me how my day went. What's going on with me?" The nanny feels guilty, and we feel guilty kind of too. Like, maybe the nanny's too focused on getting her son here. She's not considering the person that's taking care of her son while she's there, other family members, so on and so forth. The friend is like, "Okay, we're coming. We're on the flight. We're coming. Cool." She's like, "Okay." She goes to the airport. By this point, the nanny and Sequel Walls' character are pretty much together, right? And I know I'm going all over the place, but I'll get back to that because I really like that. And I want to end on a good note. No one's showing up. They don't see the boy. They don't see the friend pulling out of the terminal. So the nanny like calling on the phone, and she hears a ring, and she looks around. And she sees her friend alone with their luggage, and she starts crying. Her friend starts crying. She's like, "Where's my son? Where's my son?" And she's like, He drowned. He drowned like 3 weeks ago. He drowned." And she starts crying. She's like, "I didn't want to tell you." And that's what made me so upset. And I was like, why would you take advantage of this ticket to fly here to America? You could say she was trying to get away. She was trying to come to the U.S. also, get a better life, do what you can. But you didn't even want to tell this person, this mother, that their son died. She's not going to see him again. She's not going to try to see him again, right? He's gone, and he's been gone for so long. Like, I'm like, what? Like, you've been holding this in on me this whole time, and that's what upset me. Like I was like, this makes no sense. Why this happened? After that happened, I think it only went on for another 10 minutes, and then it ended. She ends up living with, I believe she ends up living with Sequel Walls' character, his son, and Sequel Walls' mother. Or at least they build up they're trying to build up their own family that way. So that connection between those two, Sequel Walls and Anna Diop, their characters, I really liked it. Again, written very well. Sequel Walls' mother, also from a nearby part of Africa, and she connects with the nanny, and then this idea of witches and witchcraft comes into play, and potentially the mother is a witch, or at least very intuitive, and she senses a danger going to happen to the nanny's son, because when the nanny gives the name of her son to this mother, to Sequel Walls' character's mother. She has like a worrisome, fearful look on her face, and that's all we get. And there are a lot of build-ups and things that build up, but do not necessarily connect. And I didn't really need that because I like the build-up to what was going on, and it was just concerning. It felt again not worth it. That holding on for so long. You find out that potentially the son is a witch, and he's connected to the nanny, to his mother in some way, and is jealous that the nanny's taking care of another child. And so does what he can to get her to harm that child, right? And that was such an interesting perspective and approach, and I was really into that. But again, by the time you get to realizing that's probably what's happening, it ends. And the daughter even says that Anansi the spider told her that the nanny's son was jealous of her. And the nanny again brushes it off. Like I said earlier, she brushes it off. But you start seeing it. But by the time it happened, you realize the son died, so there's nothing to do. Like, did the son purposely drown himself? Did he drown himself to haunt them? I don't know. We weren't given answers. Maybe we were supposed to make our own guesses and theories, but it wasn't worth the build-up. I know I keep saying that. It was very frustrating how it just ended like that. Anyway, the couple, Sequel Walls and Diop, they end up, she ends up staying with them. They show comfort. That family shows comfort to her. And probably Sequel Walls' son is probably going to be a stepson to her. They're kind of, they're there for each other, help each other heal. The nanny's friend is not in the picture, which is good. I'm very happy. I'm glad they cut that ties, because that was ridiculous what happened. And yeah, that's it. That's the end of the movie. Again, the build-up is so good. I love when they were button heads, the mother and the nanny. I felt that they were very much, the chemistry between the actors was very good, and it felt very frustrating. Like, seeing the mother do the things she did was very frustrating. And at the time, I felt like I just didn't like this character. But looking back, I really appreciated how Michelle Monaghan played this character, because I think the point was to see how ridiculous some of these ideas of being a mother can be, or a parent can be. I would really recommend, as disappointed as I am in the ending, I would recommend you watch it, at least to enjoy. I'd say watch it at home. I don't know if it's worth watching in the movies. It's something worth watching at home and having a discussion about, as far as a film fan or fan of movies and how they're made, especially independent films. I will continue. I'll probably end up going back and watching other films by Nikatu, because I still enjoyed the experience. Again, I wouldn't pay for it to watch it. I'd more wait till, if you have, it's going to be on Amazon Prime, I believe. So if you have it already, go ahead. If you know someone that has it, go to their place, watch it. And that's my review. I wonder if y'all seen it already. Have you? Leave your comments below. What did you think about it? Until next time, y'all take care of each other. Check up on one another. Check up on yourself. And remember, potential has no limit. We out.